numerous heterogeneous ethnic groups that shared similar cultural, political, and economic practices. It was not a term originated by the group itself. Despite the appearance of two significant Berber dynasties, the Almoravids, 11th century, and the Almohads, 12th century, the Berber tribes could never unite long enough to rid themselves of the numerous conquerors who invaded their lands. As a result, Berber history can only be followed as the history of individual tribes. Some of these ancient tribes were Gaetulians, Moors, Masili, Garamantes, Algalai, and Nasamones. Dean Rare, the 12th of February 2023, 1904. While Berbers are stereotyped as nomads, and indeed some tribes are, the majority are typically farmers. It is difficult to estimate the number of Berbers in the world today, because many do not define themselves as Berber. However, the Berber language is spoken by an estimated 14 to 25 million people. Origin: the Berbers have lived in North Africa for thousands of years and their presence has been recorded as early as 3000 BCE. Greeks, Romans, and ancient Egyptians have indicated the presence of Berbers in their records. 1. The Maghreb region in northwestern Africa is believed to have been inhabited by Berbers from at least 10,000 BCE. 2. There is no complete certitude about the origin of the Berbers. However, various disciplines shed light on the matter. Other areas of North Africa, and speak the Berber language Tamazight. 5. Not only is the origin of the name, Berber, unclear, but also is the name, Amazigh. The most common explanation is that the name goes back to the Egyptian period when the ancient Egyptians mentioned an ancient Libyan tribe called Meshwaish. The Meshwaish are supposed by some scholars to be the same ancient Libyan tribe that was mentioned as Maxians by the Greek historian Herodotus. Both names, Amazigh and Berber, are relatively recent names in historical sources, since the name Berber appeared first in Arab Islamic sources, and the name Amazigh was never used in ancient sources. It is no less important to keep in mind that the Berbers were known by various names in different periods. The first reference to the ancient Berbers goes back to a very ancient Egyptian period. They were mentioned in the pre-dynastic period, on the so-called Stele of Tehenu, which is still preserved in the Cairo Museum in Egypt. That tablet is considered to be the oldest source wherein the Berbers have been mentioned. The second source is known as the Stele of King Narmer. This tablet is newer than the first source, and it depicted the Tehenu as captives. The second oldest name is Tamaho. This name was mentioned for the first time in the period of the first king of the 6th dynasty, and was referred to in other sources after that period. According to Oric Bates, those people were white-skinned, with blonde hair and blue eyes. In the Greek period, the Berbers were mainly known as the Libyans, and their lands as Libya, that extended from modern Morocco to the western borders of ancient Egypt. Modern Egypt contains Siwa, part of historical Libya, where they still speaks the Berber language. During the Roman period, the Berbers would become known as Numidians, Moors, and Gaetulians, according to their tribes or kingdoms. The Numidians founded complicated and organized tribes, and thereafter began to build a stronger kingdom. Most scholars believe that Alyamas was the first king of the Numidian kingdom. Massinissa was the most famous Numidian king, who made Numidia a strong and civilized kingdom. Dean Rare, the 12th of February 2023, 1905. New social norms and political idioms. Nonetheless, the Islamization and Arabization of the region were complicated and lengthy processes. Whereas nomadic Berbers were quick to convert and assist the Arab conqueror.
The Berber languages. Within Berber Islam are preserved traces of former religious practices, making it a somewhat atypical sect. 7. Most belonging to the Maliki Madhab, while the Mazabites, Jurbans, and Nafusis of the northern Sahara are Abadi Muslim. Sufi tariqas are common in the western areas, but rarer in the east. Marabout cults were traditionally important in most areas. Before their conversion to Islam, some Berber groups had converted to Christianity, often Donatist, or Judaism, while others had continued to practice traditional polytheism. Under the influence of Islamic culture, some syncretic religions briefly emerged, as among the Berguada, only to be replaced by Islam. Berber Jews. Berber Jews inhabit the region coinciding with the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, Algeria and Tunisia. Between 1950 and 1960 most immigrated to Israel. Some 2,000 of them, all elderly, still speak Judeo-Berber. 8. their garb and culture was similar to neighboring Berber Muslims. It would be difficult to determine whether these Jewish Berber tribes were originally of Jewish descent and had become assimilated with the Berbers in language, habits, mode of life, in short, in everything except religion, or whether they were native Berbers who in the course of centuries had been converted by Jewish settlers. It is the second option which is considered as more likely by researchers such as André Goldenberg or Simon Levy. The question on the origins of the Berber Jews is also further complicated by the likelihood of intermarriage. However, this may have been. They at any rate shared much with their non-Jewish brethren in the Berber territory, and, like them, fought against the Arab conquerors. Dean Rare. The 12th of February 2023, 1907. Resisting Arab dominance, or moving into the Arab community, where Arab language and culture were dominant. Many chose a mountain life, where their descendants remain today. Berber village in the High Atlas in Morocco, Imlil Valley. Similar to the situation in many Western societies such as native peoples in the US, Aboriginals in Australia, and Lapps in Norway, the Berbers were considered to be second-class citizens until the middle of the 20th century. In some areas,